The fall broke 3 of his ribs. Not the physical fall. He had survived those 2. This was the kind of fall that happens inside a person. The kind that cracks something deep, something you didn't even know was holding you together. He was sitting on the floor of a bathroom in a motel that's charged by the week. 43 years old. No job. No family nearby. A phone with 1 bar of signal and $12 left in his bank account. And outside that door, a world that had already decided who he was. But here's the thing about eagles. And about the man you're about to meet. They don't fall the way other birds do. They fall up. This is Unstoppable Stories. And today you're going to discover how one man, stripped of everything the world says, makes a person worthy. Found the one thing that could never be taken away. His name was Marcus. He grew up in a small Rust Belt town in Ohio. The kind of place where the steel mill used to be the heartbeat, and when the mill closed, everything else slowly stopped beating too. His father worked 2 jobs and still came home tired. His mother held the family together with what seemed like sheer willpower and prayer. Marcus was a quiet kid, observant, the kind of boy who watched birds from his bedroom window for hours, not because he had nothing better to do, but because something about the way they moved felt important to him. Eagles especially, the way they soared without effort, the way the wind didn't stop them, it carried them. He told his teacher once, "I want to fly like that." She smiled the way adults smile when they don't want to crush something small. He graduated high school with decent grades and big ideas. He wanted to be an engineer. He'd read about bridges and infrastructure, about how the right design could hold things together that should fall apart. He applied to 3 colleges. 2 rejections came by mail. 1 didn't respond at all. His father said, "Get a trade, son. The world needs people who can do things with their hands." So Marcus got a trade. He became an electrician's apprentice. He was good at it, actually. He had the patience for it, the precision. For a while, life felt manageable. He got married at 26. His wife, Elena, was warm and practical and believed in him in the quiet, consistent way that means more than loud praise. They had a daughter, Nia. He coached her Little League soccer team. He saved what he could. Made plans. Then, at 31, the company he worked for downsized. 50 people gone in a single Friday afternoon meeting. He found another job. Then that one dried up. Then came the recession. Then the medical bills. Elena's mother needed care. Then the credit card debt they'd used to survive the gaps. Then the arguments that come when 2 good people are under impossible pressure. Then the silence that follows the arguments. By the time Marcus was 38, his marriage was over. His savings were gone. And he was living in a 2-bedroom apartment he could barely afford, seeing his daughter on weekends when he had the gas money to drive across town. He kept working. Odd jobs. Contract work. Whatever came. But something inside him had started to go quiet. There's a moment that happens in every person's lowest chapter. A moment where the world seems to look directly at you and say, "You were wrong about yourself." For Marcus, that moment came on a Thursday in October. He had applied for a full-time electrical supervisor position, a real job, the kind with benefits and a future. He'd interviewed twice. The second interview went so well that the hiring manager shook his hand and said, "We'll be in touch soon." 3 weeks of silence passed. Then, a form, email. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." That same evening, his car failed inspection. Repair costs, $900 he didn't have. And while he was sitting in the parking lot of the mechanic's shop, trying to figure out the math of an impossible situation, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an old coworker, someone who had started at the same company years ago. He was sharing a photo, a new house, a promotion announcement, a grinning photo with his family at some tropical vacation. "Living the dream, brother," it read. Marcus put his phone face down on the passenger seat. He drove the car home carefully, illegally, and sat in the dark of his kitchen for a long time. Over the next few weeks, he stopped returning calls. He stopped opening mail. He ate when he remembered to. He slept too much and still woke up exhausted. His daughter called and he let it go to voicemail. He told himself he'd call back when he had something worth saying. He didn't call back. By November, he was behind on rent. He moved into that motel, the one with the bathroom where everything eventually caught up with him, and sitting there on that cold tile floor, Marcus asked himself the question that defines the difference between people who make it and people who don't. Is this it? Is this all there is? Would he answer yes? The answer didn't come from a book. It didn't come from a mentor. It wasn't a lightning bolt of inspiration. It came from a memory. He was lying on the motel bed, staring at a water stain on the ceiling, and he thought about a nature documentary he'd watched years ago with Nia. Back when she was maybe 6 years old and everything was still okay. The documentary was about golden eagles, and it said something he had never forgotten. When a storm comes, most birds fly away from it. They hide. They wait it out, but eagles fly directly into the storm. They use the very wind that should break them to rise higher than they could ever climb on a calm day. He thought about that for a very long time. Then he picked up his phone and called his daughter. She picked up on the second ring. Dad. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have money or a job or answers. But for the first time in months, it was honest. I'm not okay, he said, but I'm not done either. That was the decision. Not to be fixed, not to have it figured out. Just to refuse to be done. It's the smallest decision. And it is everything. Nothing changed overnight. That's not how real stories work. What changed was the direction. Marcus started small, embarrassingly small. By the standards he had once held for himself. He found a job at a hardware store, the kind of place where he knew more about the products than anyone on staff. He took it without hesitation. He went to free financial counseling at a community center. He sat in a folding chair across from a woman who had helped hundreds of people in worse situations than his, and he listened without pride getting in the way. He started calling Nia every Sunday. At first, the calls were short and a little awkward. The way conversations are when you've been absent from someone's life, and you both know it. But he kept calling. Every Sunday. Why that? Fail. He found a mentor through a local trade association. An older electrician named Ray who had built a small contracting business and was willing to give Marcus honest advice and occasional work. Ray told him once, the only difference between the guys who make it and the guys who don't is that the guys who make it keep showing up when showing up feels pointless. Marcus wrote that down. He showed up. Months passed. He saved a little, lost a little, saved again. He got his car repaired. He moved out of the motel into a small apartment. Nothing special, but his own. He started studying nights for a contractor's license. Some weeks, he fell asleep at the kitchen table over the books. He got up. He kept studying. There were setbacks. A contract job fell through. A cold snap in December killed his heating, and he couldn't afford to fix it for 2 weeks. His confidence would rise, and then dip like a bird in irregular wind. But he kept flying into the storm. And this is exactly why stories like these matter, and why they're told here on Unstoppable Stories. Because the most important part of any transformation isn't the peak, it's the long, invisible middle where most people stop. Marcus didn't stop. 18 months after that motel bathroom floor, Marcus passed his contractor's licensing exam. He didn't celebrate loudly. He called Ray. Then he called Nia. She said, "Dad, I knew you would." He had to set the phone down for a minute. The man who picked it back up was not the same man who had let her calls go to voicemail. He wasn't louder or more dramatic. He wasn't fearless, but he had learned something about fear, that it isn't the opposite of courage. It's the ground that courage grows in. He started taking small commercial contracts, an office renovation, a restaurant refit, a school gym. He was meticulous. He showed up early. He answered his phone. He delivered what he promised. His reputation, small as it was, became something solid. The transformation wasn't visible in a single moment. It accumulated. A month's savings, a returned client, a referral, a new tool, a better truck, a name in the community that people said with a nod of respect. I lost weight, not from a diet, but from moving through life with purpose. He slept better. He laughed more. He coached Nia's high school debate team on Saturdays when she asked him to. He was present. 3 years after that motel floor, Marcus had 6 people working for him. A small crew, but is built on contracts. He had earned one honest job at a time. He wasn't a millionaire. He wasn't featured in any magazine. But his company had a name, a reputation, and a future. At Nia's high school graduation, she walked across the stage and accepted her diploma. And in her speech, she was class valedictorian. She said something that made the auditorium go quiet. She said, "The person who taught me the most about resilience never gave a speech about it. He just kept getting up every single time." She looked directly at her father in the audience. Looked back, and for the first time in a very long time, he didn't feel like a man trying to prove something. He just felt like her dad. Here's the truth about a story like Marcus's. Not everyone takes the same path. Not everyone gets the same outcome. Success in the real world is complicated and uneven and sometimes unfair. But what is universal? The thing that applies to every person watching this, regardless of where you are right now, is the decision. The choice to refuse to be done. That decision is available to everyone. The outcome cannot be guaranteed. The decision can always be made. There's a reason Marcus loved eagles. They don't avoid storms. They don't wait for perfect weather. They've learned something that most of us spend our whole lives trying to understand. The storm is not your enemy. The storm is the very thing that teaches you how high you can go. Your current situation, whatever it looks like right now, however impossible it seems, however loud the voice is that tells you it's over, is not the verdict on your life. It is the weather, and weather changes. What doesn't change is the eagle that was in Marcus, the one that is in you. You might be on the floor right now, metaphorically or literally. You might be in the silence that follows failure, in the embarrassment of not being where you thought you'd be at this point in your life. But you are still here. And if you are still here, you are still capable of the only decision that matters. Refuse to be done. This is Unstoppable Stories. Because every great success story, every one of them, begins with one ordinary person on the worst day of their life, choosing to take one more step. Not a perfect step, not a confident one. One more. Now we want to hear from you. What part of Marcus's story hit you the hardest? Have you ever been in a moment where you had to decide whether to keep going? Tell us in the comments. Your story matters, and someone reading it might need it today. And if this story moved something in you, subscribe to Unstoppable Stories for more powerful journeys of resilience, courage, and the stubborn human refusal to give up. The storm is not the end. It never was.